Doctor? Doctor, come quickly!
I can't!
Callum?
Yes.
What do Theon Greyjoy and Justin Timberlake have in common?
So I don't know any Justin Timberlake songs on the top of my head, so I don't know if I'll get this pun.
Oh, well, you probably won't then, because it is the name of one of his songs.
Yep, I don't know any of his songs on the top of my head, so I won't get it.
A Dick in a Box.
What's the reference to that? What song reference is that?
It's called Dick in a Box.
That's one of his songs?
Yeah, there's a Justin Timberlake song called Dick in a Box.
What the fuck? Let me fucking see. What the
Like,
fuck?
I think it's something like a Dick in a Box. It's been years since I've heard it.
Oh, I think I. Oh, because it's an SNL. No, it's not. It's a actual song that he did with.
Oh, Lonely
what's the
Island.
band
Yeah. That's
Lonely
right.
Island with Andy Samberg. Yeah.
That's right, and he appeared in it.
I know of the band.
A gift for a special test, so take off the top, take a look inside. It's my dick in a box. It's in a box. I remember that, yeah. Isn't Lonely Island the same band that did I'm on a Boat?
Well, they did I Just Had Sex.
Yes, they
like
did.
A boss.
Yes, they did.
Threw it on the ground. Jizz in my pants. I'm on a boat. Yo.
Very classy songs.
Yeah.
Anyway, Game of Thrones.
Well, I Just Had Sex has over 300 million views, so.
It's been used many times for memes and for real life celebrations. Anyway, Game of Thrones season 4, episode 6. Last time we had first of his name. I was going to say first of his men. First of his name, where Tommen Baratheon was named king. But more excitingly, Jon Snow killed Carl Tanner at Craster's Keep.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
And Hodor killed Locke. And
Yes,
Ghost killed Rast. And they burned down Craster's Keep.
That also happened, yes.
Yes. So yeah, last time we had first of his name. That's what happened there. Now we have the laws of gods and men. What are your anticipations for this episode?
Surely it's the trial, right? I imagine since it's now been this is going to be the 4th episode since Joffrey's death, it feels natural now that we're past the halfway point for that to now start. I don't know if that's going to be a multi-episode thing, but I imagine it's got to start soon, right? Surely. So that's what I'm expecting. Everything else was I imagine there won't be much stuff with North of the Wall because of obviously the last episode ending as big as it did. It feels like a natural. Let's just let that simmer for now. I hope that everything with Daenerys starts getting. Though we've been asking for about 2 seasons now, that he actually gets back on track in terms of. Can we have a bit more complexity, please? But, yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen at this rate. And what else? We haven't seen, obviously, Reek or any of the Boltons bar Locke for a while. So, I wonder if they'll turn up at some point. Yeah, I think that's everything urgent right now. Obviously, you got Aya and the Hound on their way to the Eirich.
Also, it's day 14 of the Advent calendar. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, Dave, hello.
Yeah.
Alright. But yes. Yeah, that's kind of everything. Obviously, Littlefinger's now been married. Now.
To Lysa Arryn.
And that. And then we found out that they plotted the murder of Jon Arryn.
Absolutely.
From the very start. They set everything in motion. And the reason why we're here today, experiencing this story.
And Sansa is pretending to be Elaine except she doesn't have brown hair. She has ginger hair, so everyone probably knows it's actually Sansa, which is really silly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Littlefinger.
At the very least, put like one of those like. I'm sure they would have like like what a lot of women like wear. They have long hair, but they put like a bit like a hairnet.
It's almost like Littlefinger's intelligence peaked at Chaos as a ladder, and now he's starting to lose his brain cells.
A little bit, which is worrying, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, he's not a dumbass yet. It's still on fire.
One of these days will actually go out.
Oh, bravos! What's this?
Oh my god, the Iron Bank! That's why. I imagine.
See that? I love that coin going down the little tower.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
2 locations in Essos for the first time ever.
Oh my god.
And Brian Cogman's back. Man, what a shot. Warrior of Light. Fuck, that's amazing. Look at that.
That's very cool. That's very good imagery.
You're gonna recognize a familiar face, Callum.
Oh,
it's Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss.
Welcome to the Iron Bank. Please, sit.
He's got the birthright. He's in his prime. He's a tried and tested battle commander, and he doesn't just talk about paying people back, he does it.
Bring me my red shirt. The first plate brings the red.
You won't be alone, and you won't be poor.
Repaying him.
There's a chest of the good stuff left back in your house. I gave it to your wife.
That was a nice payoff.
I think the cut from the Iron Bank scene was a bit abrupt, but other than that, I loved it. Oh. Imagine hearing her scream while you're on post all night long. Bloody hell.
Theon Greyjoy.
I don't know.
I'm here for Theon Greyjoy. Take me to the dungeons.
He's not in the dungeons.
He's in the doghouse.
Lost cage in the right.
Thank you.
No! No!
Tell him you couldn't trick me.
I'm not tricking you, Theon. I'm saving
Not
you.
Theon. Reek, here, Reek. My name is Reek. If they catch us in here, we're trapped.
Help me with him.
God, he's so fucked.
Reek! Good Reek! I've always been Reek!
Fucking hell. Oh god.
Give me my brother, and no more of your men will die.
You've got bigger balls than he ever did.
Make for the ship, now.
Your brother!
My brother's dead.
Oh my god. That's not good. Oh god. Oh no. Oh no. That's what I think it is then. Oh, okay. For a second I thought it was going to be the child. I'd be very, very, very sad if it was.
We've seen this man before at the Wall of Marine.
Let me have him brought to the temple and buried with dignity so that he might find peace in the next world.
Bury your father.
Bit more of that, please. I'd like more of those kind of
How
conversations.
many more?
There are 212 supplicants waiting, Your Grace.
200. and 12.
These meetings aren't always going to be this early, are they? I was up late last night. Thing now. Coins, ships.
Lord Tywin and I already determined that I shall be the master of ships long before you.
He's a massive nerd.
Yeah, finally. Yeah. Well, I want a good job, sir.
A coward and a traitor.
My birds tell me the hound slaughtered 5 of our soldiers. I believe the phrase "fuck the king" was uttered. As for Sir Barristan, it would seem he took his dismissal from the king's guard a bit harder than anticipated.
He's an old man. He wasn't fit to protect my son.
Joffrey didn't die on his watch.
I have been to Essos and seen the Unsullied firsthand. They are very impressive on the battlefield. Less so in the bedroom.
Your little birds find their way into Meereen.
Most certainly, my Lord Hand.
Lord Tyrell, be a good man. Fetch my quill and paper.
Aww. Can't believe
What?
he's taking the role of Arya.
More like Master of Simp rather than Master of Ships.
Well, yeah. More like a replacement for Arya.
I'm not actually a nobleman. No one is under obligation to call me Lord.
And yet everyone does.
Besides, the absence of desire leaves one free to pursue other things.
Such as?
Davara scene? Oh, we're getting spoiled.
Really?
Father's orders.
Well, we mustn't disappoint Father.
Here we go. We've been waiting for this. He's the new Kingslayer.
They're found guilty. May the gods punish the accused.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. Tyrion loves him. He loves Tommen. Remember them sitting at the breakfast table in season 1?
Yeah. Episode 2, yeah.
Demons dance.
Is it possible to love and hate a character at the same time more than him?
Yeah. God, he's so... Ah!
Stores were plundered. By whom? By the accused, Tyrion Lannister, after he had me wrongfully imprisoned.
Grand Maester. In 3 days' time, he'll depart for Castle Black and live out his days at the wall. You'll remove your white cloak immediately. You will leave King's Landing to assume your rightful place at Casterly Rock. You will marry a suitable woman.
Oh,
At least he's back on track.
this family. Oh, this fucking family.
Father's agreed to it. He'll spare your life and allow you to join the Night's Watch.
No, he's not going to do that.
Keep your mouth shut. No more outbursts. This will all be over soon.
No, he's not going to do that, ain't he?
Tyrion's seen the
Hey,
Night's Watch,
no
hasn't
way.
he? Remember?
Yeah.
He pissed off the
I
wall.
remember. Is it she? Yep, it is. Yep. She didn't leave!
He stole poison from the Grand Mesa's chamber to put in Joffrey's wine.
How could you possibly know all this? Why would he reveal such plans to his wife's maid?
Because we were fucking.
I want you to fuck me like it's my last night in this world.
Silence!
And did you?
Did I what?
Fuck him like it was his last night in this world?
Shay. Please don't. I saved you. I saved this city. And all your worthless lives. I should have let
Stannis kill you all.
Oh boy.
I'm guilty of being a dwarf.
You're not on trial for being a dwarf.
Oh, yes I am. I've been on trial for that my entire life. I did not kill Joffrey, but I wish that I had. Watching your vicious bastard die gave me more relief than 1,000 lying whores. I wish I was the monster you think I am. I wish I had enough poison for the whole pack of you. I would gladly give my life to watch you all swallow it. I demand a trial by combat.
Woo! Woohoo! What a fucking scene.
Okay, Callum, your initial thoughts on the laws of gods and men.
Probably the best episode of the season for me. Or at very least close to episode 2, because that was also very fucking good. Finding a bit... Entire episode was so well constructed. Brilliant performances all round. Some pretty fucking great dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
That last 20 minutes, just it all being the trial. Boy, that was fucking good. Peter Dinklage fucking gave a performance of a lifetime there. What a fucking scene that was.
Yep.
Oh, fucking good. That was so good.
I almost know that speech off by heart, actually, because it's so replayable and just memorable.
Watching your son die gave me more relief than 1,000 lying whores. That delivery is so
I wish I had enough poison
good.
for the pack of you. I would gladly watch you all swallow it.
Yeah, that delivery is top notch. I think that's probably his best scene.
I will get no justice here. I will let the gods decide. I demand a trial by combat.
Where's Bronn when you need him?
Yeah, so I do have, much like the last episode, I do have a couple of niggles with this episode, but the highs are ridiculously high. Everything to do with the Lannister family in this was absolutely perfect. It's one of the best things. I guess we'll talk about the trial first because it's the main event.
It is.
I just want to get out of the way the one niggle I have with the trial, and then we can move on to talking about the meat of it, like what's actually great about it. So, the only thing I don't like about the trial is how they've changed. This is to do with how they changed Shay's character in the TV show compared to the books. So in the books, she pretends to be in love with him. And then when she gets on the, the testimony witness, blah, blah, blah thing, what she's trying to do is sabotage Tyrion for financial gain. And the heartbreaking thing there is that Tyrion fell in love with another whore that was lying to him, much like Tysha. So that's how it's done in the books. In the TV show, they do it different. They have Shay genuinely fall in love with him, and then when he banishes her, at the start of season 4, it's heartbreaking for her. And when she comes back to the trial, she does it out of revenge, which is a whole different context.
Yeah, not a fan of that. Not a fan. Because it makes her seem very dull in terms of her mind, like not understanding what he's doing.
Yes, and also the other side of that is when he says the line "1,000 lying whores." The problem is that she wasn't lying. Well, she was lying about what he did, but she wasn't lying about being in love with him. Because that is the whole crux of his character, is lying whores. The whole thing of them lying that they're in love with him, but they're actually not. So them recontextualizing Shay as being genuinely in love with him has altered the meaning of why she's at the trial, which I think was a misstep. I think it would have been better if they had kept it as she was never in love with him the whole time. She was only doing it because he was a Lannister and he had gold.
Much better. That would have been so much better, and then this scene would like fully work with Shay.
Because like in this scene with Tyrion being heartbroken at the things she's revealing about him and the things she's saying to lie about him, the context is different because he just sees it as, you know, I just was trying to get you to, you know, out of danger, and now you're doing all this. Just listen to me. You know, I could have explained it properly, but I didn't because I had to get rid of you. Instead of what it was in the books, which was him basically dying inside because he realized that another whore that he loved was lying to him the whole time, just like Tysha was. And that is such an important character beat, and that's the only thing that they fucked up about the trial was Shay. But everything else about the trial, everything in King's Landing, is absolutely sensational.
Yeah, I agree fully with that.
Like you said, Peter Dinklage's best performance. The twist that Jaime is trying to save Tyrion from execution. He has that conversation with Tywin during the intermission, and how the plan is to get him to the Night's Watch and have Jaime take Castle Rock. But then that references, you know, when Cersei was going to send Ned Stark to the Night's Watch and Joffrey beheaded Ned Stark. That was brilliant. I loved how Tyrion said, you know, he was like, "Do you trust me, Tyrion?" He's like, he nods, but then when he looks Tywin in the eyes, and there's this kind of moment where he sees like all three of them are in on it, and you can see him sort of internalize this plan as like, I don't know if I can trust that. And then obviously he said like no more blow-ups, but then of course Shay comes in, and because she reveals all these false things about him, it sets him off. And you know, if they had done it in the way that I wanted them to do it, which was a straight adaptation, it also would have set him off because it would have like broken his heart that another whore lied to him.
Oh yeah.
But regardless, it sets him off, and you get that incredible speech, which is one of the most iconic scenes in the entire show. You know, I did not kill Joffrey, but I wish that I had.
Yeah.
Watching your vicious bastard die gave me more relief than 1,000 lying whores.
Yeah, because I've seen the clip of him saying that line, and now seeing the full context of it. Yeah, it's very fucking satisfying to watch such a great performance.
I am not the monster you think I am. So good.
Oh yeah, the dialogue was also fucking incredible for it.
And I love it. I love it how he was dead honest with it. He's just like, I'm on trial for being a dwarf. I've been on trial my entire life. And it's so true. The only reason he's on trial is because he's a dwarf.
It's like they inherently don't like him, and the majority of people don't like him because of the nature of his dwarfism.
Yep, and
it's a really good way to tackle bigotry. Like this is a really clever and well constructed way of tackling the theme of like bigotry.
Yeah, it's also
really well done.
The other detail is that also that Tyrion's mother died giving birth to him, so they see him as killing her, which is obviously absurd, but that's what they believe.
Yeah.
You know?
Because of his dwarfism linked with the fact that she died giving birth, yeah. And him saying, I've been on trial my entire life is such a lot. That's
that
pretty much captures his character. He's a character on trial for something he has no control over.
Absolutely. And I love that line time. He's just like, you're not on trial for being a dwarf. he's speaking in the literal sense. But Tyrion basically airs it all out. I also loved both Mace Tyrell and Oberyn's positions in this trial. Mace Tyrell being so naive and shocked at all these things, like, you said you were his what?
What? What? What? Oh my word! Like that kind of.
And then of course Oberyn being the smart one, like seeing through all of the bullshit. He's just like, and
did you fuck him like it was the last night of his
like
life?
Oberyn could tell that she was lying. He knew
because he's been around horses like most of his adult life, so he knows when he's probably being lied to. He's very clever like that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when you've got people like Tywin and Mace, they very much see it like very black and white. Like, of course, they're gonna believe Shay.
Well, the difference between those two, though, is that Mace Tyrell would believe what Shay's saying. He's gullible enough to believe all of it. But with Tywin Lannister, it wouldn't matter if he believed it or not. The end result is what matters to him. Sending him to the Night's Watch is what he needs to happen.
Yeah.
He's contriving it. Oh my god, that whole thing. Oh, and then you had all of the different people giving their testimony. So Meryn Trant, who was referenced in the last episode by the Hound and Arya, we saw him talk about the scene. You know, he talks about the threats that he gave him and Joffrey, but that he didn't reference the fact that the context that Joffrey was pointing a crossbow at Sansa and Meryn was tearing her clothes off with a sword.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's and then with Tyrion even saying, I'm not threatening the king. I'm simply educating my nephew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about context. And then, of course, you had Pycelle, who just completely fibbed the whole way through, just like, without question!
Yeah. Without question.
Yeah. And I love that line. He's just like...
Yeah,
you murdered the most noble king in the Seven Kingdoms!
The most noble king the gods ever put on this good earth.
And he wants revenge because Tyrion put him in prison.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he fucking despises Tyrion.
All your troubles. And then of course, I think one of the most interesting ones was Varys, because Varys is friends with Tyrion, but he had to testify against him to protect his own back. Which was a soft betrayal, and I like that he's like, I need to ask one question, and Tywin's like, one, and he says, have you forgotten? Sadly, I never forget a thing.
Yeah, Varys was great in this episode.
Yeah,
really felt like that was the first time this season where it was like, oh yeah, Varys, he's great, isn't he?
He also got that great scene with Oberyn Martell by the throne as well.
He did.
And it's unfortunate because that scene, if they were doing a straight adaptation from like season 5 onwards, that scene would have set up one of the best storylines in A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons. Unfortunately, they don't do that. But we'll get to that when we get to season 5.
Oh no.
What is that? Oberyn says, I've been to Essos before. So has Varys. He was from there. Why has Oberyn been to Essos, you ask? Will we ever find out? Dave and Dan? Anyway.
He said he likes to look at the world. That's clearly all he means.
For the time being, with the idea that they're going to adapt A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, that was a great setup scene for that storyline between Varys and the Martell family, which we will get to in season 5. No more on that. I also love that bit, where Varys says, not interested in guys or girls, and without desire leaves, you can do other things. Like what? And he looks at the throne. Again, set up, that doesn't get paid off, but we'll get to it. I mean, technically, Varys' thing does get paid off, but it gets paid off in a completely different way, and a much worse way. But we'll get to that. We will get to that. Ugh. Marjorie, Loris were there. Tommen was there. That whole thing of Tommen having to surrendering his place in the trial because he's a kid, giving Tywin access to the throne, which is kind of the truth, really. Tywin is the real king, even though he isn't.
Yeah.
He's the most powerful man in the world. For now, until the Iron Bank starts calling. But of course, we'll get to the Iron Bank when we talk about Stannis. Speaking of Stannis, Tyrion referenced Blackwater in his speech as well.
Yeah, he did.
Which linked...
I save this city and all your worthless lives.
Yeah. So it was the payoff to Tyrion's sort of the build up of Tyrion's character. And in A Storm of Swords, George R. R. Martin kind of details this as his moment when he it's more complex than that, but it's like George R. R. Martin has when people bring up Tyrion Lannister, George R. R. Martin says, yes, the villain of the series, and people are like, what? They're like quite confused what he means by that. But this trial and this outburst, him realizing the truth, is one of the catalysts for what turns his character into, it changes his character going forward to becoming, hateful, resentful of everything and everyone, and completely changing his outlook on life now that he's been lied to and betrayed by another whore. Does Dave and Dan do that in a TV show? I guess we'll find out. So it's this is the thing about the trial in The Laws of Gods and Men. At face value, it's like one of the best scenes in the whole series, but it also represents a lot of missed opportunities because of how they built up to it with Shay and how they follow on with it after this season. So there is unfortunately a dark side to the trial, which is unfortunate. But the performances were all really, really well done, especially from I think the Lannister characters and Oberyn and Varys were the best. And Pycelle obviously as well. I think with Pycelle, I think I said, is it possible to love and hate someone simultaneously more than Pycelle? Yeah. I think the nuances is that we hate Pycelle, but we love Julian Glover. Because the actor makes him so fun and funny to watch, like be a bullshitter. But the actual character is such a hateable prick. Anyway, I'll let you talk about the trial because I've waffled on for long enough.
Well, just everything about it was so well constructed. With the first half was pretty much all very one-sided, and then with the scene coming after that with Jaime and Tywin, a very, very, very good scene. I think Jaime especially was. It does feel like his character is really back on track, thankfully.
Absolutely.
After that big blunder in episode 3.
I mean, it was never meant to be off. It was never meant to be off track in the first place. But
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, that the scene between them and the dialogue exchange was very, very, very good. I really enjoyed Jaime in that scene a lot. Really spoke a lot about the fact that he killed obviously the Mad King and revealed to Tywin that the Mad King, before I killed him, asked for your head.
Yeah, it kind of
bloody good that was.
It very much this hammers down that I'm on trial for being a dwarf thing as well. The reason why he's hypocritical towards Tyrion and Jaime is because he wants Tyrion to lose all power. That's why he wants to send him to the Night's Watch, so he doesn't have any right to the Lannister name. Because he wants it to pass on through Jaime, who is his son that he actually loves. Or at least he believes is worthy of carrying that name. Because I think love is a very weird word to use with Tywin, with his children, because he's, in a sense, he is a bit of a sociopath. And he doesn't actually love his children. He just loves he loves himself, and he loves the idea of his family being on top and having power. And it's all tactical for him.
very much.
So yeah, the performances from Peter Dinklage, from Charles Dance, from Nikolai Coster-Waldau, from Pedro Pascal, from Lena Headey, Julian Glover, from Conleth Hill, who plays Varys. All of those performances were just top tier in this episode. Even the guy who played Mace Tyrell as well. He was really good in this as the naive fool, master of ships, but brings Tywin's papers to him in the small council. I also really liked how in the small council they addressed what's happening in Essos as well with Daenerys. I thought that was really good for the world building.
Much better scene than the last episode with Dany, where that dialogue felt a lot more natural. It felt way more informative of how people feel about current situations.
Well, I guess
instead of just it literally being informative, and that's it.
Well, I guess if we're done with the King's Landing stuff, unless there's anything more you wanted to say about it.
It was just fucking fantastic. Honestly, probably one of the three peaks of this show, I would say. That final
I think if they hadn't fucked up the Shay thing, I think it might be the best scene in the show.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Shay's just not. I probably would say Shay's just not good in this show. I think overall now, I'd probably say on average she's pretty much poor. I think the first season and a bit, I was like, I don't dislike her. I just don't think the actress is fantastic, and maybe because that's the
language
accent
barrier
really coming forth. Yeah, and that too. But the last sort of season now, I would probably say it's been pretty poor.
I think she's really good in her first appearance in Baelor. That stuff she has with Tyrion and Bronn. But once they establish in season 2 that she's actually in love with him, that's when it starts to sour.
Yeah, and with this scene, it just makes her seem naive, not understanding what Tyrion's doing with Sansa. Like, to not see it from his perspective makes her seem a little strange. When like her first couple of appearances, she did seem quite knowledgeable and understanding of how people think and react to things.
This is Dave and Dan wanting more romance in the show. They did it with Rob and Talisa as well. They wanted it to be romance, but unlike this, what Rob and Talisa gave us was it gave us a very brutal red wedding scene where she has her unborn baby stabbed.
Yeah, that one was a lot more consistent overall. With Shay, it feels very much she's just a bit stupid when it's not really established that she is.
And the alternative instead being she never loved him and she was using him for money is so much better.
That makes way more sense in terms of what the narrative has been saying up to this point.
Yeah, and imagine the whole thing.
Because when she's on trial here, she does seem heartbroken. But
and imagine
revenge.
Imagine if, like, you know that whole thing of in season 3 of them trying to send her away to Pentos. Imagine if the actual motivation is because no, I want to stay where the money is, rather than, and she wants to gamble being with the Lannister so she can be rich. Instead of stagnate in Pentos. Imagine if that was the motivation instead of she's in love with him and wants to stay with him. You know?
Yeah. It kind of makes it just feel like, I don't know, she should have just taken it. It makes her seem really stupid.
Like, do you remember that scene in season 2 when Tyrion, once reaffirmed reciprocation from her? When he says, say it, I am yours and you are mine. Like, he needs her to say it. That would be more heartbreaking if she was lying and not saying that honestly. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that they did that change because it kind of fucks up the trial a little bit, but everything else is great. Yes. Of course, we talked about the small council meeting, so we might as well move on to Marine. They actually gave us something good. Yes!
Yay!
Yes!
Yay!
This is the first good thing with Daenerys. Like, obviously we had sprinklings throughout bits of season 2 and 3, mainly 3. Mainly the Yunkai stuff was okay, and then they had the Misa thing, which was a good moment for her. But this is like the first properly good bit of Daenerys character stuff since I'd probably maybe even say season 1. Because they actually showed the fucking consequences of her actions! And there's 212 upset people that want to talk to her about it. Oh, it's so good. And you have
her having an actual debate about, you know, the situation with this person.
Yeah.
Is the most she's probably felt like
she had. So she's
dealing with a lot of different things.
we saw the dragon burn the goats. You had the farmer bring the goats' bones, which again shows it shows a consequence, like they can't farm, therefore they can't feed their people if the goats get killed by the dragons. That's a major economical crisis. And then they had Hizdar Zolarak, who's one of the high men of Marine, talking about the political sort of justification of these men were masters. Not all of them wanted to put those slaves up. She assumed that's what they believed, and not all of them did. Some of them were born into the slave culture and don't know better. Some of them didn't want to pin them up. It was only the most toxic and tyrannical of them that did that to the slaves. And then she had the argument of, well, what about, did you plead for forgiveness when all those slaves are pinned up? Did you care about them? And obviously his wall breaks down and he realizes that actually I'm not doing this for a political reason or a moral reason. I'm doing this because I loved my father and I want to see him buried in the temple.
Yeah, that was really good. It was a really good performance from the actor.
That was fucking so good, and it made Daenerys, she realized that she fucked up, but she also didn't want to show that she fucked up to the people either, because she wants to believe that she's not only in the right, but she doesn't want to submit her right to power. And then they're like, how many more? 212, and she's just gobsmacked. And now she's having to face the fucking consequences of her actions, which is what we've been wanting for so long. Thank you. Will it last? Let's find out.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, this scene was great. This scene of, an actual debate, was really nice to see.
I actually thought that Emilia Clarke's facial performances was really good in this as well, because when she realized things she didn't know, and secondly didn't expect, and shocked her, you could see her facial expression shift, and she was kind of trying to scramble to come up with an answer to a solution, because she didn't anticipate that her dragons would be such a crisis to the marine economy. And this here is the adaptation side of it. This is her all of the complex politics of the Slavers Bay storyline. It's coming together and it's boiling up pressure. And she's realizing this is becoming very overwhelming for her to handle because she's not experienced in this. And she's coming up with very simple solutions like, we will pay you back 3 times, what you lost. Just throwing money at the farmer to try and repay what he lost and all that. Not coming up with any long-term solution that's going to stop her dragons from burning them, because she doesn't want to control her dragons. She wants to sort of just keep them at bay, or just keep them what they're wanting to do, but just with a very short-term financial solution that's probably not going to be sustainable. And then eventually seeing a man removed from his titles and his position, just seeing a man wanting to grieve his father, and her understanding that and saying, bury your father, Hizdar Zolarak. So good. The only thing I would say is I wish there was a bit more for Jorah and Barristan to say. That would have made it better. They just sort of stand there and don't do much at the moment. But that's my one thing, as I wish there was more dynamics there with her advisors. The one other thing is I love the set as well. The set of her throne.
Oh, I really love. Oh yeah, this set is really cool.
With all the steps, looks amazing. Yeah, your thoughts on the marine stuff?
Yeah, this felt like the first scene this season with Daenerys that actually felt like, oh yeah, remember she actually has a lot of problems to deal with, and every action she has a consequence, and she has to deal with that, and whatever choice she has. But to have that actual dilemma is really interesting, and that's pretty much been a part of our narrative, and that's kind of been lost the last season and a bit. This was probably the first scene in a long time where it felt like, oh yeah, she's an actual character.
Yeah, since when she had to face the death of Khal Drogo and the aftermath of that. Losing someone that she loved after all the sacrifices she made. She let her brother die to be with Khal Drogo, and then it ended up being like, you know, Khal Drogo ended up dying. She ended up losing most of her Khalasar. The only thing she had left were those dragons. Yeah, they did her really well in season 1, and this episode showed some of the best material they've given her over the past 3 seasons, I think, which is nice. And wow, surprise, surprise, why is that? It's because they're adapting from the books, which is what they should do most of the time. When you make deviations, it's got to be the kind of deviations like the Mutiny at Crescent's Keep from last episode, where you're complementing the story rather than shaving away its context and redoing it in a light that's not going to work. Because that's the thing, is you may change a singular character, but that has a ripple effect on everyone around them. Hence the Shay thing having a ripple effect on Tyrion, which is a shame. But what they did here with Daenerys was actually a good move. I guess you'll just have to wait and find out if they are able to continue this kind of character journey for her, being overwhelmed and toppled by the complex politics of Meereen. And her very, very... well, her not really being able to manage that, if you will. Anything else you want to say about Meereen?
No, I just think finally a scene where I'm like, wow, this wasn't terrible, and it was actually really, really well done.
Yes. Right, I've got another really, really, another scene that I loved from this episode. I imagine you probably did too. It was the scene at Braavos with Stannis Baratheon, Davos Seaworth, Tycho Nestorius from the Iron Bank, played by Mark Gatiss, and then eventually the bit with Salador Saan to pay off that little storyline with Davos. I thought that was so fucking cool. How they approached them with their usual thing of, he has the birthright, you know, you're putting an unworthy bastard child over him, and they, you know, the way that the Iron Bank portrayed it was exactly the way that Tywin described in the last episode about them being a temple with no excuses, no negotiations, or they only negotiate with facts and figures and no opinions. They're very objective in a way and plain without interpretation. And I loved the way that Davos Seaworth put it to them earnestly. He didn't go with the whole fucking monarchy birthright bullshit. He just said, Stannis Baratheon is a man of his word, and if you look at my severed fingers, that is proof of that. What other man in Westeros can have that kind of ironclad honor than that? And like that whole speech that Davos did to the Iron Bank, and then they don't give you the answer until he shows Salador Saan the coins. I thought that was such a great payoff. Not only to the Iron Bank, is Stannis going to receive money from the Iron Bank question, but also paying off everything that Salador Saan has done for Davos Seaworth, like, you know, when he went into Blackwater, when he rescued him from death, and all that. I thought that was a great little payoff. Liam Cunningham. I mean, obviously this is Peter Dinklage's episode, and everything in King's Landing is so much more important and so much bigger than this. But I think Liam Cunningham gave like a dark horse performance in this episode at the Iron Bank. I thought he was so good.
Yeah, I agree. I think I really like that scene overall. I think just really well dialogued, all really well performed.
Yeah.
I would have liked it. I think the cut-off of the scene probably wasn't why I would have it, because it felt very abrupt a little bit. Other than that, though, I really, really liked this opening scene.
Absolutely. I loved every little detail of it. As like they said, you can have a seat, and Stannis Baratheon is sort of like, am I supposed to sit down? I'm supposed to be king. You know, just looking at Davos, like, what should I do? And then they just eventually decide to sit down. It's almost shows everyone has to sit down with the Iron Bank. You know, there's no one above them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I thought everyone involved in that whole thing was so good, and the scene with Salvador Sam was hilarious. He tried to tell that joke that he's told all the whores, and they all know the joke.
Yeah, because they've probably been with a lot of pirates in their time.
Yep.
Nothing new there. Yeah, that was a fucking really good bloody scene.
Yeah, and was it a nice surprise to see Mark Gatiss?
It was. I think I knew he was in this show at some point, but I don't know how big his role was. But yeah, he always nice to see him because he's a great bloody actor.
Yeah, I think the only weird thing about the Iron Bank is his 2 other associates didn't say anything. That's the only thing I'd say about that.
What's the real point of them being there?
It was a bit strange that they were there, but I guess, yeah, that was a bit strange.
Like if you would just have them like talk one after the other, you know, something like that, make an actual conversation.
You literally could have one of them say you may be seated. You know.
Yeah, sorry.
They certainly used Mace Tyrell and Oberyn a lot more than they used, you know, the Iron Bank associates. Yeah, but I love also another thing. I guess we'll get to it in the direction, but I think all the visual aesthetics of Bravos were great too, especially.
Oh yeah, that opening like shot of the of their ship, and then that obviously panning up to the statue and overarching like city, very bloody good.
Yes, yeah. That's an illustration of there is only one entry and exit to Bravos. You cannot get to Bravos any other way. You have to sail through the legs of that soldier. That soldier with the sword is he is the one that is, I guess, defending Bravos because it's the free city, right? So, you know, if you're the free city, there's only going to be one entry and one exit. Yeah. And we've had so much world building with Bravos leading up to this, you know, with Ciri Farrell and with the faceless man who betrayed Jack and Agar as well, and also, you know, everything we heard about the Iron Bank. Like, there's so much world building that's gone into this before we arrived there in this episode, so it was very well set up.
Yeah, definitely.
Valar Morghulis. Yes. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Loved all the performances, loved the facial expressions. I loved when they basically rejected Stannis and the look on Davos's face of like trying to think, well, no, we can't just leave. We have to get this because this is the whole reason we came here. We came all this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all this way and we can't be for nothing. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I really enjoyed that scene quite a lot.
Absolutely. So then there was one other storyline in this episode. I have slightly mixed feelings on it. It's one of the only other kind of, outside of the Shay stuff, it's the only other kind of tism I have with this episode. I guess we'll go with the part of it that I'm negative on first, and then we'll talk about the rest of it. So we have the bit with at the Dreadfort with Reek, Ramsay, Miranda, and Yara, and all the Greyjoy men. So
yes,
the only weird thing about it is that they make it a rescue mission. This is something they set up at the end of season 3 when Ramsay sent the cock and the dick in the box to Balon, just hence why I had the joke at the start of this. So in the source material, it's handled differently. It's a case of Ramsay offers Reek to go home and he refuses it. Whereas here, it's Yara tries to save him and he doesn't go with her. The motivation on Reek's behalf is the same, but I think the sort of the nature of how they did the whole Yara trying to save Reek was weird because it was kind of like the reverse of the Gendry thing where it just felt very easy for her to just access Reek. You know, you'd think there'd be a bit more security.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It felt like, I really feel like you could have had 2 people grab him and it wouldn't be that hard, even with him being erratic.
Yeah. exactly. And that's
Like,
that's
yeah.
the only thing about it that's a bit strange, was the whole nature of the trying to capture him and get him out thing was weirdly contrived. But in terms of character motivation, it remains the same. Reek refused to go because he's scared, and also not only is he scared of, like, he's been fucked up, mentally scarred, and completely, like, his whole psyche has just been, you know, turned upside down, but also he's scared because we remember what Ramsay did to him in season 3 when he tried to help him escape and then he brought him back and tortured him again. Like, he has PTSD from that. And
pretty much, yeah.
He's lost trust in anyone.
Yeah.
So at
he's
least
pretty mentally fucked.
Yeah, so at least from Reek's point of view, the character motivation is still the same. So it doesn't assassinate his character or anything. It's just the whole rescue mission is weird. And I think the only reason why they did this is because of the nature of events taking place in a different order, and this ties into Stannis Baratheon's storyline. So I'll basically sort of unload why this all happened. So the deal with the Iron Bank takes place later in the books, and instead of going there, Tycho Nestoris, who Mark Gatiss plays, comes to Westeros and meets with Stannis to make the deal. But in the TV show, they have him go to the Iron Bank first and meet him there in Braavos. So what happens is, at this point in the story, Stannis' storyline crosses over with Yara's, although in the book her name is Asha, but they changed it because it's too similar to Osha. So they named her Yara in the TV show. So what happens is that Stannis Baratheon captures her at Deepwood Motte. And meanwhile, Davos Seaworth goes to a place called White Harbor in the north, and he's trying to get Wyman Manderly's house on Stannis' side, because he's trying to get, you know, more troops on Stannis' side, because he's lost a lot of men, as he said, 4,000 and only 32 ships. And what happens is that Davos Seaworth hears of the sighting of Rickon Stark and Osha, because if you remember at the end of season 3, they left Bran. So Davos Seaworth hears of them, doesn't see them, but he hears of them at White Harbor, and Stannis Baratheon is at a different location in Deepwood Motte, where he captures Asha, who's known as Yara in the TV show, and instead Ramsay offers Reek to rejoin her, and he chooses not to out of fear. And that's how it's handled. So instead what they did was they had Stannis go to Braavos to meet the Iron Bank. They didn't have Davos go to White Harbor, because I don't think they wanted to do the Rickon stuff. And they also didn't have Yara get captured by Stannis at Deepwood Motte, because he went to Braavos. So instead they had her try and rescue Theon at the Dreadfort and fail. So yeah.
Okay.
So that's how they rearranged it all, and I think it's weird. I think it's a way to do it. I think it works well with the Iron Bank stuff, but I don't know if it works as well with the Dreadfort stuff with Yara going there to try and save him. I think it's just a bit. It could have been better conceived.
Possibly.
Yeah. It also, as if you've read the books, you'll basically get an indication of, does that mean that they're not going to do the White Harbor storyline, which means they're not going to do the sighting of Rickon Stark, which is sort of, people are thinking, are they cutting them from stuff in this part of the storyline, and wondering when they're actually going to end up in the story later. So yeah, that's the sort of changes they made, and I think it has a slight bit of a negative consequence on the Yara section. But the other part of this was the bath scene, which I thought was fantastic, where Ramsay puts Reek in the bath, makes him take his clothes off.
Yeah, that scene was really good.
And
I really liked that scene a lot.
Basically, Reek thinks he's going to get hurt, and he doesn't, and he gets comforted and washed. And Ramsay's trying to get...
He's very much a loyal pet, pretty much.
And Ramsay's trying to, you know, comfort him and get him on his side so that... Because if you remember in episode 2, Roose Bolton says to Ramsay, we need to capture Moat Cailin. So maybe Reek will be of some... This boy will be some use, you know, now that he's no longer Theon Greyjoy with a penis and all that. So Ramsay is, you know, comforting Reek, trying to get him to pretend to be Theon Greyjoy and take Moat Cailin. So that was a great scene with the bath, I thought.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed there.
Yeah. Ramsay's also
Ramsay's
also a bit different in the show. He's not as scary as he is in the books, but he's definitely a bit more he's definitely more, I don't know if cartoony is the right word, but he's certainly more like sort of wide-eyed and zany compared to...
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Because in the books, he's genuinely terrifying. Like he's I feel
like early in his first few appearances, he was that. Now it's a little bit more cartoonish. Like him coming into battle this episode shirtless, covered in blood, is a little cartoony, a little bit for my taste.
Yeah, it's definitely more sort of. I don't know if Jokerish is the right word, but it's something along those lines.
Yeah. Like it's not Sacha Dhawan cringe. Don't get me wrong.
God,
it's
no.
nowhere close to that.
Oh no! I think
it's with hints of Joker a little bit in it.
I think the actor does a great job. I mean, I think Ramsay when in episode 2 before he shaved, when he had that facial hair, that was kind of almost leaning into what he's supposed to look like in the novels. He's supposed to be more
him
rugged
being clean
and raw.
face is a bit strange to look at.
Yeah, like I think his what makes him scary to Reek is what he's done to him as opposed to his appearance and his demeanor. You know, because Ramsay's not really a scary person; he just does scary things. Whereas in the novels, he does both scary things and is scary. Like he's conceived as an intimidating psychopath figure, but in the show, he's a bit of a. He does very, very awful things, but he seems more like a... I don't know if I would say coward, but he's certainly more boyish and abusing his power. And yeah, that is one difference. But I think the actor Iwan Rion does a great job with the character. And he definitely has fun with it. You can tell he loves to ham it up a bit.
He does.
I do think there's an argument to be made that him walking into that room with no armor is really stupid.
It is very stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's fundamentally stupid to do that.
Yeah, and the only reason they did that is because they wanted to make him look crazy. With like...
Oh yeah, that's very much the impression I'm getting. They're trying to make him like... My god, look how wacky he is.
Yeah, like unhinged.
He's so crazy.
Yeah.
He's so unhinged, he wouldn't even wear armor.
Yeah. So his participation in the capture stuff was silly, and he's just he's just been having sex with his girlfriend and then just gets out of bed.
Yeah.
Because as I said, Miranda is also a show addition that didn't exist in the books either, because Ramsay's not supposed to be portrayed as a horny boy in the books, you know. Whereas in the show he is.
Yeah.
I think it's because in the TV show in season 3 you actually see Theon's transformation, and because Theon lost his cock, they want to portray Ramsay as I actually have a cock and I can use it and enjoy it. You know, I think that's what they want to do with him with that, and that's why they added Miranda, and hence why they made her an archer, given that they had her, you know, torturing that poor girl near the start of the season. The capture stuff was a bit strange, but for Reek's character it works really well, but the bathtub scene was definitely the highlight of the Dreadfort stuff. And it's gonna...
Agreed.
It's setting up something at Moat Cailin later, which you'll get to look forward to seeing. It's interesting, because now Reek has to pretend to be Theon, who's someone who he was, but isn't anymore.
Yeah, as soon as he said, I need you to play a role... and take the castle for me, and as I knew he was going to be like, tell him to be Theon Greyjoy.
Also, we talked about Liam Cunningham having a dark horse performance in this, obviously being overshadowed by Peter Dinklage. I think Alfie Allen as Reek is so fucking good.
Oh, he's great. The way he plays the role is
the way his
so
whole
well
body
done.
his whole body shakes like in terror. It's just so good. And now he's got another challenge on his hands because now he's going to have to pretend to be Reek, pretending to be Theon.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah. So yeah,
he's got it all to do. Some brilliant performances.
Absolutely. So yeah, that'll be something to look forward to with Reek. He's had one of the most interesting character journeys in the show, hasn't he? Over the past 4 seasons, for sure.
Yeah, every season there's a progression with him.
Mm.
Like he's never stagnant like Daenerys is.
Yeah.
He actually.
Some people would argue that his the second half of season 3 they do too much of the same thing, but I think in each scene they do slightly shift it up a bit.
No, there's clearly progression with him every episode we appears in.
Because some people look at it face value and say it's only torture. I mean, visually it is the same set, but each scene they do it, Ramsay is talking about a different thing. So there is progression. And also, I think one of my favorite moments of him in season 3 is when he, just before he gets betrayed by Ramsay, when he gets brought back into the Dreadful but thinks it's Deepwood Mott. He says, "My real father's died in King's Landing." We're talking about Ned Stark. That was such a good scene.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. The episode received universal acclaim from critics, most reviewers singling out Tyrion's trial as the highlight, especially praising Peter Dinklage's performance.
No surprise there.
Yeah, the facial expressions that Dinklage was doing was just pure art. Like the way he saw it, when he turned around and saw Shay and you saw his face just sink.
Oh, he's such a good... Like before she actually came on screen, I did think it was probably going to be Shay. And yeah, his performance in that reaction was very...
Well, they played the same...
well sold.
Raymond Javadi played their love theme again.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, and then you see his face slowly sink down. And he's like, "Shay, don't.
Please don't."
He's like, "Father, I wish to confess." And you just see his eyes all red and bloodshot. So good. After one of the show's most heartbreaking betrayals, Peter Dinklage gives his best performance of the season. Potentially the best of the show. I think it's probably his best performance in the show.
I agree.
So good. One of the best things I've seen Tyrion do in a long while. He let a lifetime of hate ooze out of him like never before. Brian Cogman, so he obviously did episode 4 as well, which was Oathkeeper. Brian Cogman's always been known for his character dialogue. I think that them giving him the privilege of doing the trial was a really, really nice nod to him, to let him do that. It's a bit like how they let George R. R. Martin do the Purple Wedding. You know, they let Cogman do the trial, which is probably... I imagine they may have at his request, because he said, you know, it's probably like one of his favorite moments in the whole series. But, again, I thought dialogue was really strong for the most part throughout the entire episode, as it usually is with Cogman. He very much understands these characters on a deep level. I just think that it's showrunner things like the Yara capture, reorganizing that stuff with the Stannis Yara stuff, and the changing Shay's motivation that kind of fucks with the episode. But I blame Dave and Dan for that, because they made those decisions before this episode, and Cogman had to write those in genuinely because he
did, yeah,
because of the showrunners' directions that they demanded, which was what they established. So I don't blame him for that, but I think his contributions to the episode when it comes to dialogue and characters was impeccable. I thought he did a brilliant job with and especially like giving the Daenerys storyline some of the best dialogue it's had in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah. The direction was by Alex Sakharov. Absolutely incredible. I thought the direction of this episode was top notch throughout the whole thing. There was so much subversion with the way he hid things with the camera. Like when he showed the farmland and then had the dragon appear above the child was brilliant. all of the stuff at Bravos, the big shot of like on bird's eye view of the ship, then panning up to the soldier standing above Bravos, the stuff in the Iron Bank, the bathtub scene with Reek, the way that was edited. Then you had obviously the stuff in Marine, the way that he made the pyramid look brilliant, and the whole set of the steps and the way he framed those camera angles with the high and low angles on Daenerys and the people speaking to her. And then with the lighting and everything was beautiful. And then obviously the best stuff was King's Landing. Like the shots and the zooms he did on Tyrion's face, and especially the very end when he said, "I demand a trial by combat," and it cuts to all the different characters reacting to it with different facial expressions. You know, Marjorie's shock at the truth of it, Jaime's heartbreak that Tyrion didn't trust him and betrayed the plan, Oberyn smiling in admiration at his balls and bravery, Cersei being absolutely mortified by his words, watching a vicious bastard die, the shot of him seeing Shay before we see her, all the stuff with Mace Tyrell and Pycelle the Wimp, with him turning around without question. And then, of course, the final shot, zooming up to Tywin Lannister's face as in his disappointment of not going with the plan of the Wall and demanding the trial by combat. Like, all the shots in the trial were just incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, very fucking good. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Color grading as well was top notch for this episode too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it looked beautiful. Constantly.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it... You know what's an interesting detail? Olenna Tyrell left King's Landing in the previous episode before the trial.
Yep, then very interesting.
Because she knew that Dontos Hollard's necklace was going to be brought up.
Yep.
And she didn't want to be associated with that. Very smart.
She's a very smart woman.
Yes. This episode was nominated and won some awards. It won the Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Award for Outstanding Art Direction for a Single Camera Fantasy Series. It won the ADG Excellence in Production Design for 1 Hour Single Camera Fantasy. And Peter Dinklage was nominated for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series at the Emmys, the Primetime Emmys. Didn't win.
Damn.
Didn't win.
Bloody good try, those.
Another great part of this episode was Raymond Javadi's score. The moment I pointed out was when they used the Shay and Tyrion love theme when she appeared in the trial. It was very well done.
Very well done. Very well placed.
And the way that he used tension to build up the bathtub scene with Reek and Ramsay, where you think that something horrible is going to happen. I think he played similar build-up music that he used in season 3 at the Dreadfort.
Most likely, yeah.
There was one little line that I thought was a bit tropey, was when Yara said, "My brother's dead." I thought that was a bit cliched, to be honest.
A bit.
Yeah, I understand
it felt kind of.
I understand the meaning of it.
Yeah, it does. It also felt very fast to say that.
It felt very. It felt very Star Wars, didn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's like when you think of the context, like I don't really feel like she would, after all she did in like last season, like trying to get her father to help save him, to then go when he's like in the state he's in, he's clearly been tortured and he's clearly been like fragile and like broken down mentally, to then say, "Oh, my brother's dead. There's no way to save him."
I feel like there's a better way to do this. I feel like you could have had her reluctantly get on the boat with the dogs chasing them, and then she looks back and then she turns around and she like swears loudly or something. I think that would have been a way better way to do it, because like out of frustration, she's like, "I came all this way, to save Theon." That would have made more sense to me than "my brother's truly dead" or something very like, That it's very Return of the Jedi, you know, and Luke's like, then my father is truly dead.
Well, but then with that one made sense though.
Oh yeah, it did. It did make sense. Totally made sense. And the difference is he said that to get under Vader's skin.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because Vader
felt unless
Vader
she's
still
like
Vader
she's just
still
trying
puts
to
stock.
get through the conversation.
Vader still puts stock in being his father and can't let that go.
Yeah, it just felt like she said that way too fast and it was way too defeated by it.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be interesting what happens with her and what she's going to do now. Whether she'll try again, I don't know.
Again, if they had gone with the source material, had her captured by Stannis Baratheon and had Ramsay offer to have Reek brought back to her and then he refuses it because he's scared, I think that would have been better.
Yeah. Would have made a bit more sense.
Yeah. Anyway, we have a couple of tracks to listen to. Interestingly, none of these come from the Season 4 soundtrack. This is one of those ones where I had gaps to fill, so I put 2 songs from different seasons in this one. The first one is from the Season 3 soundtrack, and it is named after one of the episodes from Season 3. It is called Dark Wings, Dark Words. Unused in the series, but it's a chorus version of the Game of Thrones theme.
Yeah, very good rendition.
Very good.
That's very, very good.
Yeah. I think if there was a scene that you could have used that for, it would be like a coronation. Like maybe they could have. It's one of those ones you could have used for if say the scene where Tommen's crowning was like longer and more focused on him rather than Marjorie's point of view, you could have used that song if it was just purely about him being crowned, but the scene wasn't. But yes, it was a very good rendition. Now, this one's going to shock you. The next one is from the Season 8 soundtrack.
Oh my god, no! Not already! No! Not there!
So
I don't like it there.
In the end credits of this episode, they gave us an unreleased version of the Reigns of Castamere theme, the Lannister theme. It's not on any of the soundtracks, but because of that, I decided that this was the best place to place this piece of music because it's fitting to this episode. And I couldn't put it anywhere else. So there is a version of the Reigns of Castamere in the season 8 soundtrack that's also unused in the TV show by Raymond Javadi and also an artist named Serge Tankian. So don't be scared. Please don't be scared.
Yeah.
I know season 8 is a scary thing to hear when it comes to Game of Thrones. But trust me when I say this, when it comes to the soundtrack, it's actually great. So
yeah, I imagine so.
So, are you ready for the season 8 version of The Reigns of Castamere by Raymond Javadi and Serge Tankian?
Yes, I am. I'm ready.
And who are you? The proud Lord said that I must bow so low. Only a cat of a different coat, that's all the truth I know. In a coat of gold, mine are long and sharp, my lord, as long and sharp as yours. And so he spoke, that Lord of Castamere. But now the reins weep o'er his hall, and not a soul. And who are you? The proud Lord said that I must bow so. Only a cat of a different coat, that's all the truth I know. And so he spoke, and so that Lord of Castamere. But now the reins weep o'er his hall, and not a soul.
Excellent.
You wouldn't think that would be from season 8, but there you go.
No, something excellent being in season 8. Oh.
Well, technically, it's not in season 8. It's just represented by season 8. Yes, I think it fits to listen to this now because of you're seeing this family crumble.
Yeah,
this,
a little bit,
like
yeah.
this is the boiling point for the Lannister family. This is where it all has just fallen to shreds. Especially for Tyrion and Tywin, and also Jaime as well in a way. And this point in the books is where all Lannisters basically fall apart, like the whole family becomes fragmented and shatters for multiple different reasons. This is the first thing that really starts that, and it's been building up to this point. You would hope that the showrunners would see this and they would think, yes, this is a great thing to incorporate into these characters and going forward. Whether or not Dave and Dan actually choose to go through with this, we'll have to wait and see. But in this moment, showing Tyrion basically do that speech and put it all on the line was great. And I think, you know, having the Lannister theme play in the end credits was a great idea. And yeah, in terms of this song though, it was a very nice rendition of it, I think.
Agreed. Very, very lovely done.
And also, it gives you a bit of a flash forward to what the instruments kind of sound like near the end of the show, because they Raymond Javadi kind of rearranges his orchestral take each year, and the way that the instruments sound in this is kind of how they sound near the end of the show. So you're getting a little, like, I guess a bit of a small spoiler musically as to kind of where he heads with his musical style. Because that's the kind of person he is. He would never want to be stale. And being stale is something that could happen to you if you were using purely medieval instruments.
Yeah.
So now it's time for the trivia. As I said, this is the first time the opening sequence features 2 locations in Essos. We had Braavos and Meereen. I love that bit of the Braavosi, but you know the coin that the Faceless Man gave to Arya, the Valo Magulis coin. You can see the coin rolling on the... You can see a coin
cool.
like that rolling on Braavos, and then it pans out to the soldier holding up his sword and shield defending the free city. Lovely.
That's cool.
One little detail that I forgot to mention is the reason why Tyrion doesn't seem as upset and surprised by Varys' testimony against him is because in the Lion and the Rose, if you remember, Varys politely warned Tyrion that if his father ever turned on him, he would not risk openly intervening on his behalf. So that was that was set up.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That coming from Varys doesn't surprise me.
Yes. Tyrion states, "I saved you. I saved the city and all your worthless lives." According to the novels, he indeed contributed a lot to the victory over Stannis, maybe more than the others who contributed to the outcome of the battle, because it was his idea to form an alliance with the Tyrells, although Littlefinger accomplished it. The chain, which was omitted from the show, was his idea. He supervised the training of the Spitfire crews to handle wildfire. He sent the hill tribes to harass Stannis' flanks and kill his scouts as they passed through the Kingswood. And lastly, after Jacelyn Bywater was killed and the Hound deserted, it was Tyrion who took command over the Kingslanders and led them against Stannis' troops. Due to his outstanding bravery, the invading host was delayed long enough until the Tywin and the Tyrells reinforcements arrived. So what I love about that is that his arc throughout the first 2 seasons builds up to him becoming a hero in the Blackwater after he was knocked out at the Battle of the Green Fork in season 1. And then at this point, from Blackwater to now, is building up to him becoming the opposite of a hero. Becoming hateful of all those people rather than inspiring them.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. This is the first episode in the entire show that absolutely none of the Starks appear, nor any of their immediate supporters, i.e. the Tullys or the Umbers, or even Brienne of Tarth. Even Eddard's bastard Jon Snow does not appear. This is the first ever episode in the whole show that has nothing to do with the Starks. It's all Lannister and Targaryen and I guess Theon Greyjoy. I guess you could say Theon Greyjoy counts. Is the only one that's tied to the Stark storyline.
He's not an actual... He's not of Stark blood.
Yeah, he's the closest thing to it. But I would say he's his own thing. I count him as the part of the Greyjoy storyline. Many reviewers found it bizarre and unexpected that after all the build-up given in the Season 3 finale that Yara Greyjoy would attempt to rescue Theon from the Dreadfort, her small raiding force actually fails in about 3 minutes of screen time. The subplot unravels. Cogman explained that this is actually exactly what the writers intended. They deliberately wanted the entire Yara attempts to rescue Theon subplot to abruptly end in failure as a fake-out to the audience to surprise them. Similar to how Renly Baratheon was built up in Season 2 but then was unexpectedly assassinated by the Shadow. or how Robb Stark seemed to be built up as a faction leader who will ultimately be defeated by the Lannisters only to be killed at the Red Wedding. As Cogman intended it, Yara has never failed before, and this is embarrassing for her. It is a case of reality setting in that she thought it would be a good damn the odds epic rescue, but it is really impossible for only 50 Ironborn to successfully raid a strong castle like the Dread Fort. On a certain level, Cogman thinks that Ramsay let Yara escape after most of her men had been killed by the Bolton garrison and its hunting dogs. Send a message that the Ironborn shouldn't screw with him anymore. Ramsay is a sadist and knows that letting Yara leave alive actually torments her more than killing her, because the Ironborn never retreat and think retreat is shameful, which would actually prefer to gloriously die fighting.
Okay.
I think you could have portrayed that better.
Yeah. Or the reasoning being, well, it was to be like, a shocking subversion, and it's like, you can do that, probably in a much more convincing way.
I think there could have been a situation where her Ironborn men refused to, go back. They're like, we don't go back, we're made of iron. And she has to try and explain to them why they can't. But at the same time, it's like, it just would have been better if they didn't do it. It just would have been better if they just just had Ramsay offer Theon to leave and have him refuse. That just would have worked so much better.
It probably would have.
But again, they had Stannis go to the Iron Bank, so they couldn't have him capture at this point in time. And he stresses that Yara isn't actually afraid of the hunting dogs, but the reason why she leaves is because if she dies, her father's bloodline will be extinguished. So she can't lightly risk her own life, because obviously Theon is not going to carry that bloodline.
Not anymore.
Hizdahr Zolarak's scene with Daenerys is entirely an invention of the TV series, as no mention at all of Hizdahr's father is made in the books. Hizdahr begs Daenerys to let him give his father a proper funeral despite what the crime she feels was complicit in. Cogman openly admitted that he took this from the ancient Greek tragedy Antigone, written around the year 441 BC by Sophocles. Well, he actually did well with that change, because as I said in, I think it was 2 episodes ago, because Cogman also wrote the episode where she pinned the slave masters up to the posts. That also doesn't happen in the books either. She doesn't actually act out that revenge. So this is something that Cogman wrote into the show, pinning up the slave masters, and then had it pay off here with Hizdahr, talking about his father. So this is actually something that he added with Hizdahr that I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It gave the Daenerys the kind of smack in the face she needed to realize that she's actually...
We've kind of been waiting for many an episode now.
Oh yeah. Cogman originally scripted the scene in which Tywin and Jaime meet during the trial's recess to take place in the Tywin's office in the Tower of the Hand. Charles Dance, who plays Tywin, however, pointed out that this might be a bit repetitious given all the other scenes that took place in Tywin's office, and on his suggestion the scene was moved to the garden atrium set. Cogman also thinks it worked better that way because having Tywin discuss the trial while he's eating lunch at the atrium makes it seem much more flippant and uncaring about Tyrion's fate. I think that was a really good suggestion from Charles Dance, actually. Sometimes actors can change things for the better.
Yes.
Probably the most notable one I can think of is how Christopher Eccleston changed the script of Dalek in his performance.
Yeah.
Robert Sherman wrote him as cunning and seething, but Christopher Eccleston made him unhinged and rabid.
Yeah, and it was better for the overall narrative.
It led to one of the best performances in the whole franchise. There was quite a lot of confusion and debate amongst viewers about how exactly Shae came back to the Red Keep, given that what she last was seen was Bronn had just put her on a ship in the harbour bound to Pentos. Some viewers developed elaborate explanations of how Shae was reacquired, such as outright sending a ship all the way to Pentos to retrieve her. Cogman pointed out that Tywin's first line after Joffrey was poisoned was stop all the ships in the port, and Cogman felt the obvious implication was that the Lannister soldiers had quite simply managed to stop Shae's ship before it left the bay. He was confused by some viewers put thought into this and found it difficult to understand. That is actually a good detail. that Tywin said stop all the ships in the bay, which happened right after
There's enough
she was supposed to
inference
leave. Yeah.
Well, even then, she simply could have decided. Oh, well, she did decide to. So I don't think it would have been too. I imagine there's time has passed. Not a massive amount, but a decent time. But I'd probably say that is probably the best likelihood that it just didn't.
Yeah.
It just
I think
it was too late because
I think I think the real. I mean, I don't know if what opportunities will arise, but I think the real question that Tyrion would need to ask Bronn if he ever sees him again is why did you let Shay? How did you let Shay go? How did she escape your grasp? Because Bronn was in charge of escorting her to Pentos. I guess maybe inferences that Tywin stopped him, and he's the one that has the money really, and the power.
Well, I'd imagine that she left her on the boat before it sailed off. So I imagine what happened.
Also, Bronn is now, owed his payment for all of his services to Tyrion as well, and now he's on trial in a fucking prison.
Yeah.
Regarding the Iron Bank of Bravos, Cogman was worried and wanted to make one thing absolutely explicit. The Iron Bank did not officially decide to abandon the Lannisters in favor of fully funding Stannis in this episode. Instead, Davos raised enough doubt in their minds about how well the Lannisters could maintain their hold on power and manage their debts after any potential catastrophic events that the bank decided to extend Stannis a provisional loan and to at least string him along. The loan was just enough to buy new food supplies and horses for his remaining men, and to rehire Salador San's sail fleet so he could also transport these remaining soldiers where he needed to, instead of remaining immobilized on Dragonstone. It didn't give Stannis enough money to hire a massive new mercenary army, such as the Golden Company, which is what Davos previously mentioned. That's what they came in wanting. Cogman stressed that as of this episode, the bank decided that it would be a bad idea to put all of its eggs in one basket, and it wants to keep at least its options open between Tywin and Stannis, which still remaining officially neutral. And this was set up by Tywin in the last episode, how he said that the last gold was mined 3 years ago, so Tywin can now hold up. He is no longer able to hold up his end of the bargain. For the time being, though, the bank still acknowledges that Tommen is the king of the Iron Throne itself, controlling the capital city and thus allegedly also responsible for the Iron Throne's massive foreign debts. So yeah, I think that's what they wanted to get across, is that they no longer want to put their eggs in one basket, but they're not just giving Stannis everything. Because if they gave Stannis the Golden Company, he could go to King's Landing right now and just fuck them up and possibly even win. Because the Golden Company is, well, we're told they are the best army in the entire world. The best trained army in the entire world.
But we'll get to the Golden Company in Season 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh god, in the scene where Ramsay lets Theon have a bath, Brian Cogman actually wanted the camera to pan down to show the devastated remains of Theon's genitals after Ramsay emasculated him. But David Benioff and Weiss felt it was unnecessary.
I was wondering if they were going to do that during that scene.
That would have been pretty brutal to the eyes if they did that.
Which makes me think they're probably never gonna at this point.
Yeah.
Because this would probably be the scene to do it, if you're going to.
Yes. This, by the way, this storyline with Theon and Ramsay, we're actually, like, far ahead. We're up to A Dance with Dragons, which is the 5th book, as opposed to The Trial, which takes place in A Storm of Swords. So, yeah, this, I remember, because the last time we see Theon is when he gets put in that body bag at the end of the 2nd book, which is at the end of Season 2, if you remember, where Ramsay captures him at Winterfell and takes him away. And you don't see him again until A Dance with Dragons, and then it basically cuts to, I think, unless I'm mistaken, I believe it is the bathtub scene. It might be. I can't remember exactly if it is or not, but I believe it is the bathtub scene is when you get a point of view chapter called Reek, which is confusing because Ramsay pretended to be called Reek and killed a soldier called Reek and pretended to be him instead. But then you read a point of view chapter called Reek thinking it's Ramsay, and it's actually Theon who's been just like disformed and emasculated and absolutely brutalized. And I think Ramsay in the book says that the reason why he called him Reek is because he always needs a Reek by his side. Which is, you know, referencing why he had that soldier he nicknamed Reek who he killed and pretended to be him. So that's, yeah, we're currently far ahead with Theon compared to the rest of the show. I also, one thing I forgot to mention, I really like that bit where Tywin chastised Cersei for her decision to get Barristan off the Kingsguard. Because insisting that had Barristan stayed, then Joffrey may not have died.
Yep.
But also forgetting that Robert Baratheon died on Barristan's watch as well.
He did.
But Tywin acknowledges the fact that Robert's death was not only on his own drunkenness, but it was also orchestrated.
It was.
Because they needed to get Joffrey on the throne. They needed to get the Lannister name on the throne away from the Baratheon house. Which in turn began Stannis' rebellion against the throne. Which is my duty, my obligation, and my right. In the season 4 blooper reel, Charles Dance gripped the pommel on one of the swords, making up the Iron Throne so hard that it accidentally snapped off, and then he looked down at his grip and embarrassed that he had just broken the Iron Throne prop. That's hilarious. So, last episode, the overnight viewership rating was 7.16. It was the highest the show's ever had. This time, it was 6.4.
Ooh.
It dips down to 6.4.
Ooh, that's disappointing, especially for this episode.
Oh yeah, people missed out this one. It's possible that it may be due to some kind of holiday or some weather thing. I remember this happened during the Blackwater episode as well. It dipped massively because of some holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a shame. It's dipped down to 6.4. Still a very, very impressive number though.
Oh yeah.
But you had a bunch of casual viewers that dipped out for some reason. Must be some kind of American thing. Anyway, give your conclusion and a rating out of 10 for the laws of gods and men. That rhymed.
Oh yeah, this is a pretty high tier episode overall.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of things here and there that are a bit frustrating. However, I think the last 20 minutes was pretty much... It felt like high tier Game of Thrones. For the first time since probably episode 2. Yeah, this episode was really, really bloody good. So I would probably say, with all the great dialogue, great performances, in pretty much every scene, and with the expert writing pretty much of the last 20 minutes, I'd probably say this is probably a 9 out of 10, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've really bloody enjoyed this one.
Yes, and with the caveat of if they hadn't done the whole Yara thing and they'd had the temptation of... If they'd had a scene where Ramsay tempted Reek to actually go back home and refused to, not only because he's afraid of what his father will think of him without his manhood, but also because he's scared of what Ramsay's going to do if he says yes. That would have been so much better. And also, if Shay had never loved Tyrion, this would be a 10 out of 10 episode. 100%.
It'd be damn close to it.
Yeah, I would put it at a 10 out of 10 if those two things had happened properly. But because of them not giving us the opportunity to see that great scene from the novels of Ramsay tempting Theon to return and him refusing, and also changing Shay's character to be in love with Tyrion and act out of revenge, which makes her seem dumb, and kind of muffling the Thousand Lying Whores line, I also am going to give this a 9 out of 10. Because it just misses the mark of being a masterpiece because of those changes, and it sucks. It sucks that those changes happened. Because this, I think this could have been a contender for one of the best episodes of the entire show if they hadn't made those changes.
Agreed.
Because it's not just the trial as well, it's the Iron Bank as well, and it's the Marine storyline, and it's also the bathtub scene, and the stuff with Oberyn and Varys and the small council. Like it's everything else, apart from Yara and Shay. The Yara and Shay stuff and the Ramsay being shirtless thing was stupid, but everything else was amazing. So I also am going to give it a 9 out of 10. On the back of Peter Dinklage's performance, on the back of Charles Dance's performance, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Lena Headey, Conleth Hill, Pedro Pascal, Liam Cunningham, Mark Gatiss even, Stephen Delane, Alfie Allen, Ewan Rion. Just, it's all over it. Even Emilia Clarke was good in this one. Not quite a masterpiece, but pretty damn close. A masterpiece performance from Peter Dinklage, though, I will say that. One of the best in the whole show.
Absolutely.
So, with that massive, monumental cliffhanger coming off this episode, the Trial by Combat, we go into Season 4, Episode 7, which is called Mockingbird. Mockingbird being the sigil of House Baelish. So
I imagine we'll get a very, very Littlefinger-centric episode, most likely.
So your thoughts and anticipations going into Mockingbird?
Yeah. This felt the episode that I've been asking for the last couple of episodes, so it now feels like these next 4 episodes are going to really tug along and really kick it up a gear, I think, with the potential trial by combat after the trial, with it being hopefully a very Littlefinger-centric episode. Yeah, I am very looking forward to the next episode and this sort of now final stretch of this of the second half of this season, because this season's felt at times it is very much a ship that is well built but with a couple of holes in it this season overall, but I want this now to sort of kick on with a strong ending to get it back up to par with probably a lot of the early seasons. Yeah, I am looking forward to the next episode very much.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much almost every episode outside of maybe episode 2, which was amazing. Amazing episode 2 was the Lion and the Rose. Outside of maybe that, I think every episode has had a few leaking holes in it. To be fair, episode 1 was pretty solid too. Two Swords is pretty great. But everything after Joffrey's death, every episode after that, there's been, like, most of it's been good, but there's always been these little niggly things, like the Jaime Cersei rape scene and, you know, the Marine takeover, at least before this episode. And then, like, the Yara thing here, the Shay recontextualizing of her being in love with Tyrion rather than not. Pretending to be. There's these little leaking holes that are coming out, and it's a shame because most of the stuff is great, and I think you can feel it's about to burst. Like, it's about to go horror.
Yeah.
Like, you can sort of feel this is a meta thing, because mostly with Game of Thrones, it's you can feel something's going to go wrong, but it's going to be great drama. Like, you feel like there's something that's about to happen that's going to crumble everything, like they did with Ned's death and whatnot. But with this season, it's almost in the meta sense, something's going to go horribly wrong with the writing, and the show is going to crumble at some point. You can just feel it coming. You know?
Yeah.
Which is a shame. We're very much nearing the end of the golden era of Game of Thrones, and the end is nigh. The end is truly nigh.
Yeah, the golden age of Game of Thrones is coming to an end very soon.
Mm-hmm. But hopefully, and for the time being, hopefully Mockingbird is another really good episode. Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. I mean, we already have Ginger Sansa at the area, which is an inbuilt issue, but hopefully outside of that, we can have a great episode. Looking forward to it. So yeah, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, just I'm looking forward to the final couple episodes of this season, and after that is going to be very interesting in terms of discussions going forward with the second half of the show, because after this we'll be halfway done, which is a very scary thought. We're very close to the halfway point.
Yeah. Well, in terms of episodes, I think we already are, because seasons 7 and 8 have.
Yeah, in terms of episode, yeah.
Season 7 has 7 episodes, and season 8 has 6 episodes.
Yeah, so we've only got around less than 33 episodes to go.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's
around that. If
there's 4
if the next
left,
2 seasons
so there's 4 left of this season. Then there's 10 in seasons
20.
5 and 6. So that's 24. Then
around
plus
40, yeah.
Plus 7 is 31, and then plus 6 is 37. There's 37 episodes left.
Yes. We've got 37 more episodes to go.
Yeah. And we've gotten through 36 so far. Yeah.
So yeah, we're actually pretty dead on actually.
So the next episode is the halfway point of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I guess yeah, we should probably address that. What is your sort of thought now that we're about to approach the exact halfway point of the show? What are your thoughts on that? And sort of where we are.
It feels like the show right now is in a very good place. Very, very, very good place. But clearly with this season, with the couple, especially these last 4 episodes, the cracks are starting to show. We're very much aware, we've said many times, that they are starting to show now.
It's not just occasionally. It's not just occasionally, it's every episode.
Yeah, it's not like in the early seasons where there was something that we probably were like, that could have been done a little bit better. Or even the last 2 seasons where we had issues here and there, but it was not as prominent and it wasn't as often. There is definitely, with this season, despite there being the highest of highs, it's having its lows. It's the lowest it's been in a couple of episodes, and they are starting to slightly suffer from it, especially in the scenes that are meant to be like the big scenes, you know, like this episode with Shay being the example for this one.
Yeah.
So
I tell you what though, some of these issues we're having right now seem pretty petty compared to what we're going to get later.
Well, that's the thing. It's going, and I imagine it's going to be a slight downward spiral.
Yeah.
With each season, where they're going to leak more and more, and there's going to be a more fundamental issue with the narrative as a whole. And I'm wondering when that's going to happen. When's that scene or that character's decision or occurrence where we're going to sit there and be like, this is fucking awful. Because I don't think we've really had that.
What was it that I said in the Two Swords video? I said the first writing red light.
Red flag. Yeah.
The
first
obviously
the
the rape scene, but that's direction and editing. But the first time that the writers have a red flag as opposed to a yellow.
Yeah, not looking forward to it. So it's a lot more. So the feeling is more, while I'm enjoying this ride and I'm enjoying this season overall, while it's probably so far my least favourite overall, even though it has some of my favourite scenes, it's more of a it's a worry feeling more than anything. More of a how quick is it going to turn?
Yeah. Because if you look at our scores, this is still a very good season so far. But the Game of Thrones standards, it's below the first 3 so far, when you look at the averages.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because everything in the first 3 seasons is, I think we gave at least, I think maybe there was one episode in season 3 we gave a 7.5. I can't remember, but I think almost everything in the first 3 seasons hit that 8 at least standard. But then we got Breaker of Chains, which was a 7, and then, you know, yeah, things were We've had 4 episodes in a row, I think. Yeah, 4 episodes in a row where there's been something really detrimental. And it's like, uh-oh. What's happening here? Can we get this back on track, please? Hopefully Mockingbird is another really good one. Hopefully. And we will see you all next time for Game of Thrones. Season 4, Episode 7. Mockingbird. Bye-bye.